Hey everybody, this is Attorney Kenneth Stevens from the law firm Stevens PLLC, and today I want to talk to you all about insurance provisions, specifically the owner's insurance requirement that is in the AIA. I think that oftentimes this is an overlooked clause. I think that it's not negotiated enough, and I think that a lot of times people kind of dismiss it because you think that it's something that is probably a small percentage of chance of it happening, and I think that that's a mistake. So in the AIA, if you look at kind of the standard form 201, generally it's going to require that the owner insures the property against loss. So if anything were to happen, let's say if the project were ongoing and it caught on fire and burnt down, or if there was a massive flood. I mean, we're in Houston, we have that happen. The owner makes sure that the property is insured, right? I've seen some owners try to shift that risk to the contractor, and I've seen contractors sometimes accept that risk. Maybe their risk profile allows it, I don't know. If I'm involved, I will probably push to never allow that to happen. And I've also seen where both parties just kind of leave that out. Nobody really addresses what happens in that situation. And I just think that's a huge mistake. I'll give you an example. Everybody focuses on like liens and non-payment stuff, because the reality is the probability of that happening is pretty high. I mean, the probability on a $200 million job of somebody filing a lien or a bond claim is high, and so it's highly negotiated as to what happens in the event a lien is filed, or what happens in the event that there's some defective work performed, because the probability of that is high. But I also think that when you're looking at contracts and you're trying to negotiate what is important in the contract, I don't think you can only look at the probability of something happening. I think you have to look at the impact that that thing has if it happens, right? So let's look at the impact of if a lien gets filed on a $200 million job. I mean, if a lien gets filed, it's probably not going to end the project. I mean, unless it's just a huge lien and it freezes it for a while, but there's still options. There's ways to deal with it. If a bond claim gets filed, there's ways to deal with it. So I get negotiating those things, and those things are important to deal with. But I'm saying that the impact isn't that significant, right? Take this insurance situation. Imagine a situation where you're 80% done with the project. You got a draw out there. Maybe they haven't paid, one or two draws, so that's still pending. And then you got a couple of change orders, and now you're still in the middle of doing work, and then the property burns down, and you all don't have this whole thing figured out. There's no owner that has insurance on the project. There's no owner's policy, or it's just not addressed. That's a nightmare. I mean, how do you, that right there could kill your year. So I think that, the probability of it is probably pretty low, the probability of an entire casualty loss. But, if it happens, it's catastrophic. And that's why you have to, you have to deal with it. You have to address it, and I think you have to negotiate it. And I think that in that situation, you want the owner to be on the hook for it. Generally what happens, I think the AIA does a pretty good job of making it fair. The owner is on the hook. The owner gets the insurance. If something happens, the owner deals with the adjuster. The owner can accept a settlement. They have to notify the contractor, and the contractor can object, but the owner can ultimately accept it because it's their property. If they accept the settlement and the contractor disagrees with the amount that was settled, then the contractor can bring a claim pursuant to the claim procedures of the 201. So I think that's the best way to deal with it. You can amend that a little bit, maybe shift risk a little bit, but I think the completely shifting risk to the builder is ridiculous, and I think that just kind of not addressing that clause is ridiculous. Obviously the scope and size of the project matters, and the kind of project it is matters, but for the most part I think that those clauses need to be in your agreement, and I think you need to pay more attention to them. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. You all share it. Make sure we're connected. And as always, happy building.
Interviews.